Good morning. I am glad you're here. Welcome to the Monday Message. Each week, we take a few minutes to reflect on leadership, character, and the choices that shape who we become, not only as members of our community, but as parents, spouses, teammates, friends, and neighbors. These are not lectures or perfect answers. They are simply observations from our career in public service and lessons learned along the way, with the hope that they challenge all of us to think a little differently as we begin a new week. This is your first time listening. I'm Dan Dillon. I've spent more than 3 decades in public service, and every Monday I share a few thoughts on leadership, character, and service. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get started. Today I want to talk about independence, not the holiday, but the idea. Because I think we sometimes celebrate it without really thinking about what independence was meant to represent. This year marks the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, an extraordinary milestone in our nation's history. For 2.5 centuries, generations of Americans have celebrated the ideals expressed in that remarkable document. But anniversaries are more than an opportunity to look backward. They're an opportunity to reflect on whether we're still living up to the principles that inspired those who came before us. With Independence Day just behind us, I found myself thinking less about fireworks and celebrations and more about what the authors of the Declaration of Independence truly meant when they declared that the 13 colonies would become free and independent states, and what that should mean to us today. One often overlooked fact about Independence Day is that the Declaration of Independence was first and foremost a political and legal document. It formally expressed the 13 colonies' interest to separate from Great Britain and establish themselves as free and independent states. We celebrate July 4th as our nation's birthday, but that date only marks the approval of the Declaration by the Second Continental Congress, not its signing. Most delegates did not actually sign their names until nearly a month later on August 2nd, and independence was not achieved simply by declaring it. The colonies had already been at war for more than a year, and the fight continued for 7 more after the Declaration was approved. It was not until the Treaty of Paris in 1783 that Great Britain formally recognized the United States as a sovereign nation. The Declaration wasn't the end of the journey, it was the beginning of one. Those 56 men understood something that's easy for us to forget. Declaring independence was the easy part. Living up to it would take generations. If the revolution failed, many of them expected to lose their property, their livelihoods, and possibly their lives. They were not signing a document because success was guaranteed. They signed it because they believed the principles behind the words were worth the risk. Freedom to them was not the absence of obligation. It was the opportunity and the responsibility to govern yourself with integrity. When most people hear the word independence, they picture standing alone, needing no one, answering to no one. But that is not what the founders created. The Declaration was not a declaration of independence from one another. It was a declaration of commitment to one another. 56 men were saying, we will either succeed together or we will fail together. They understood instinctively that independence was not the absence of connection. It was a connection strong enough to bear weight. They needed each other's signatures, each other's colonies, and each other's resolve to become something that could eventually stand on its own. The Declaration does not hand you a personal exemption from authority. It hands a free people the responsibility of becoming their own authority. When the founders removed the king, the person standing over them, they made a remarkable bet. The character would fill the space where supervision ends. Whether we are talking about a nation, a fire department, or a family, every organization eventually reaches a point where rules are no longer enough. That's where character takes over. Whether you're a firefighter, a parent, a spouse, a supervisor, or simply someone trying to become a better person, there will always come a point where there is no policy, no rule, and no one else watching. Character is what carries you the rest of the way. As we celebrated the 4th this past week, I hope you enjoyed the time with family, the traditions, the fireworks, and everything else that makes the holiday meaningful. But perhaps it is also worth remembering what independence truly represents. It is not simply the freedom to choose, it is the responsibility to choose well. Perhaps that is what makes the 250th anniversary so meaningful. It's not simply a celebration of our nation's age. It's a reminder that American experiment has endured for 250 years because generation after generation accepted the responsibility of preserving it. Every generation has faced its own challenges, its own uncertainties, and its own decisions about whether to place the common good ahead of personal interest. Now it's our turn to step up and lead. We may never be asked to sign a declaration or fight in a revolution, but every day we are asked to exercise the freedoms we have inherited with integrity, humility, responsibility, and respect for one another. We are tasked with proving that we are capable of doing it well, one choice, one day, one person at a time. The strength of our nation has never depended solely on the words written in 1776. It depends on the character of the people who continue to live them. Every generation inherits freedom. Every generation has to earn the right to keep it. So maybe the question is not whether we are independent. Maybe the better question is this: are we living in a way that's worthy of the freedom we have inherited? Freedom is a gift. Character is how we prove we deserve it. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me today. If this message challenged you to think a little differently, then our time together was well spent. If it resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who could use a little encouragement this week. Until next Monday, choose the harder right over the easier wrong. Take care of one another, stay curious, lead with purpose, and never stop growing. I will see you next Monday.